Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about the astrology for the first week in June. If you can believe that one. Wow, June. Well, it was a wonderful weekend. I hope everybody had a great time. Maybe you added some relaxation to the weekend rather than the hustle and bustle of the weekend. Whatever as it is that you did, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I know I spent it on Saturday out in the woods and near the ocean, hiking through the forest, hiking along the beach. It was beautiful. God, what a beautiful day it was. And I spent time with my daughter and her 4 kids and my husband. We just had a great day. Although by the time I was done, I was tired. It was another 6-mile hiking day for me. And I've put a lot of 5 and 6-mile days on my feet lately. And I recognize by the end of the day, it feels so good to have moved my body like that. But on the other hand, I'm so ready for a nap at the end of the day. So yesterday was a much more calm day. Yesterday I even thought to myself, gosh, is the moon in Virgo? Because I felt like I was getting organized. You might notice in the background, I'm back in my office today because I was able to, as I finished up the project for the 2020 almanac, I was able to put everything away. I kept finding myself when I was sitting in my office, pulling things out, putting things back. Finally, I just moved to the dining room where I felt better about writing because I could have everything in front of me that I needed. So anyway, I got that taken care of yesterday. So here I am today, ready to talk to you about what is coming up for the week. Happy new moon, everybody. The new moon occurred this morning at 3:03 a.m. my time, 6:03 a.m. for you all on the East Coast. So we are now in the new moon energy. And this is a new moon in Gemini. It was around 12 degrees, 30 minutes. So about between 12 and 13 degrees on the zodiac wheel. And this is a new moon where we can set intentions around things that are Gemini focused. So that would be about learning, teaching, writing, the mind, sharing, information gathering, following your curiosity into new streams of thought. The potential downside of things is that, and these are things that you might want to include in your new moon intentions that you might want to overcome or that you might want to work more peacefully with. And that is about being scattered or losing focus, because Gemini energy has so many potential ways to express itself and so many things it could be doing and so many things it could be saying, that the tendency is to dabble, right? To spend a little bit of time in everything and not really spend focused time in one thing. And then there are also the indecision points that haunt Gemini energy, as well as, we usually think of Libra as indecisive. Libra's indecision is more because they see both sides of everything. Gemini's is, geez, if I take the time and I do this, then what if something else opens up and I want to do that because it feels more fun or more exciting or more adventure? So the indecision comes in as, wow, if I commit myself here, then I might not be open for this over here. And so they just sort of half-heartedly engage that energy across the board. So let's say hi to everybody we have out there this morning with us. Good morning, Lynn. Great to see you. Good morning, Michelle and Mimi. She says yawn. Good morning, everyone. Oh gosh. It is kind of a cloudy, cool day. I had to pull my long sleeve short or clothes out again. It's like more in the afternoon maybe, but during the mornings, it's still chilly. I was tempted to turn the heat on this morning because when I got up, the house was 61 degrees. I went, eek. Good morning, Rebecca and Debbie Hedden. Good morning, Allison. Great to see everybody out there this morning. If you guys want to put in any comments, let me know how you're feeling. What are you feeling? What are you thinking going into this first week in June? I really want to know. So let's talk a little bit more about this particular new moon. The moon itself was being challenged by Neptune. As soon as we had the new moon, the sun and moon both sort of moved into this challenging aspect with the planet Neptune. We are mind challenged. We are mind challenged because Neptune is foggy. It is nebulous. It is hard to pin down. Our thoughts may be drifting off, right? We may be daydreaming, and we may find ourselves yawning like Mimi this morning as we're trying to focus our energy on something, focus our minds on something. So, don't be hard on yourself if you're not focused and ready to go. Because sometimes Neptune just isn't, right? It is the energy of the void. And at other times, it is the energy of spirit. It's ethereal, and it's hard to, you just can't pin it down. And, sometimes this is a time then where it's just easier to daydream, escape, right? Do something that you can focus on instead of beating yourself up for the inability to focus on what it is you think you want to focus on. So be kind to yourselves today. A little bit later in the day, the new moon will move across to the planet Jupiter. And here we have thinking versus knowing, right? Gemini is where the sun and moon are, and they're very much in the thinking process, very much in the mental capacity. But Sagittarius, where Jupiter is on the opposite side, is more knowingness. It's about trusting the path forward. It is about looking for truth, not just the superficial little information, please, but the deeper, down deep sort of truths, the big capital T truths, I would say. Here we have what I termed it targeted optimism versus spaghetti throwing. If you are a manifesting generator out there, you know what I mean by spaghetti throwing. You tend to juggle, right? And you throw out a bunch of different things, and whatever tends to stick is what you focus your energy on, and everything else just falls away. So when we have this opposition of the moon and the sun to Jupiter, it's a possibility that we all sort of fall into that idea, where there's all of these things that we feel like we want to do or things that we want to get done. We throw a bunch out there, and then we try to work on, the various little things, and we can't because there's really no real focus ability. So today we have to have this idea of what are we excited about? I think you're going to find later as we talk more about, I have so much to talk about today. As we talk a little bit deeper here about some of the things that are showing up today, and in the new moon in particular, you're going to see that it's about following your passion, finding, what it is that really excites you and following that trail as opposed to the bigger, wider trails that you could follow. It's like coming to a fork in the road, only the fork isn't just, one or two paths. It's more like multipled, like 4 or 5 different trails you could choose. So you have to choose wisely. And the way to choose wisely is to choose what you're passionate about. And if we look at where the energy of the Pleiadian Earth energy calendar is today, it's at the energy of 6 seeing. 6 is the energy of flow. And I was trying to go deeper here before we came on air, right? In my Pleiadian-Earth energy astrology book, Charting the Spirals of Consciousness by Pia Orlean and Cullen Baird Smith. However, I couldn't focus my mind because my mind was on all the different topics to talk to you all today. But essentially, when we're talking about the number 6, we're talking about the universal idea of flow, going with the flow. And it sort of matches up with our human design Earth this week, because the human design Earth at gate 5 is about rhythm and timing and about not pushing the river, staying in the flow, right? So today we set the tone of the week for the energy of flow, and the idea of the Earth energy being seeing is that we are flowing with ideas and with potentials, with the expression of our gifts and our talents in a way that matches our passions. So I hope that makes sense to everybody for the day. Debbie says, Oracle Palooza this week. Good morning, Debbie. Irina says she's feeling extremely productive today. Got a lot done, but starting to get tired already. I understand that totally. Diana said, I was confused, missing time. Nothing went right for the weekend. Is that right, Diana? Sometimes when, we're dealing with time, it is only a human construct, by the way. Animals don't really flow with time. right? An orca out here in the ocean does not flow with time. They flow with natural cycles, right? They do what they do because of their inborn sense of this is the right place to be at the right time. They move, from there. They migrate from the south to the north and then back again, and they do that without a clock. They do that without a calendar. And if we didn't have an artificial sense of timing, we would always be able to use our instinct to be in the right place at the right time and flow. So here's where we are beginning our reconnection, if you will, to the ideas, the concepts of natural flow, natural time, trying to step outside of the clock and the calendar that keeps us so tied to having to be at a certain place at a certain time, to eat at a certain time. You know what I'm talking about, right? Now, is it totally cool to throw out the calendar or to throw out the clock? I think we have so made our world complex that without it, we would be lost. I think everything would become quite chaotic. So I think we begin a process of flowing with natural time and letting go more and more of the calendar, listening to our body's wisdom about when is the right time. But the fact of the matter is, we do have appointments that are at specific times, and we do live in a world right now, anyway, that has to flow with time. That doesn't mean, though, that you have to always tap into the calendar or a clock. If you have an appointment, then of course you do. If you don't, then you sit back and relax and just tune into your body and find out what body wants in terms of timing and where to go, where to be, who to be with, etc. Good morning, Colleen and Asa. Good to see you, ladies. Linda, good morning. She made it through the weekend. That's a good thing, Linda. We're glad to see you. Glad you made it through the weekend. So with the new moon, let's dig in a little bit deeper to some of the minor things going on with the new moon, because I think they set the tone, right? The new moon happens at a moment in time. As I said, 6:03 a.m. for you all on the East Coast, 3:03 a.m. for me here on the West Coast. I was sound asleep. I didn't even notice that there was a new moon. But there are times at the new moon where there are these minor astrological transits happening. And most times we don't hear about them, right? We don't really hear about them, yet they're going to be there in the background, sort of as an irritant, perhaps, or as the catalyst to keep us going. And you want to know what those things are going to be. So I took a look at the details of the new moon this morning. And the first thing that popped out at me is the sun and moon combination. Remember, a new moon is the sun and the moon in a conjunction, right? They're in a conjunction, and they are in opposition to the earth, if that makes sense to you. But in this particular new moon, there is a minor influence called a semi-sextile. And it is a semi-sextile is a 30-degree relationship between planets. And the sun-moon combination is in a semi-sextile to Mars. So here's at a point that a semi-sextile as a 30-degree angle is not particularly difficult. And it's not particularly easy either, but it's sort of feeding our need to do something in particular. And what we need to do is to get in touch with what we really, really want, or what do we really want to do, or who do we really, really want to be during this period of time. And as we connect with that, then we set our intentions around that. It's about following our passions again, right? And with this kind of energy, we have to be ready to adapt and change, right? We have to be able to go with the flow. The new moon occurs on a 6 seeing day, and that means we're going with the flow. And as a little bit of an irritant to us for this new moon period is that this is sort of stop and go energy. And in some cases, it may feel like you're driving with your foot on the gas and on the brake at the same time. And that means you're spinning your wheels. At other times, you get all the signs that it's, go energy followed in the next hour or two or the next day by stop energy. So we can become very impatient and very annoyed with that kind of stop and go. So we want to be aware of the potential for this new moon period to present us with lots of opportunities to be patient, to learn patience, to be in the flow of the energy. Now, I also saw this isn't a minor connection so much as the sun and moon are in a connection with what some astrologers think as a minor point in your chart. I'm looking more and more at this particular point, and it's Pallas Athena. In our astrology, Pallas Athena shows us where we need to bring our warrior self and our receptive self into balance and to be able to hold space for both, particularly the feminine. So Pallas Athena, remember, she's a goddess that sprung right from her father Zeus's head, and she was born fully clothed, fully developed, with her armor, with her owl on her shoulder, ready for wisdom and ready for action. And that tells us that in this new moon period, we need to adopt a sort of flow that is always keeping in balance and harmony. Now, I want to talk about that for a minute, because so many times when we're thinking of wanting to be balanced or in harmony, we think of those scales, those Libran scales, right? And they never quite come to a static point. I hope you guys understand that, right? There is no such creature called complete and total balance and harmony, because part of that is these scales are always moving in reflection or as a reflection of what's happening, right? As energy inputs, then the scales attempt to do another balance. Once in a while, you get hit with something and it throws the balance way off. And then you have to inject something else that can bring things back into sort of balance. But the scales are always in motion, right? There is no point of equilibrium or motion that is always going to be in harmony. Now, we can reduce the fluctuation between the two by meditation, by praying peace, by praying for balance, but those scales are always going to be unbalanced in some way. Ask any Libra, right? Any Libra will tell you that just as they think they've got it all, it tips again, and they have to do something else to bring it back up, and then it may go too much the other direction. And then so equilibrium and balance is always a process. It's dynamic. Okay. So we have this dynamic energy going on in behind the scenes with this new moon about keeping things in harmony. And the way we do that with Pallas Athena is that we have to balance both the emotional and the mental. And the mental and emotional energies are really triggered as we've got the sun and the moon in mental Gemini, and we have Mercury tomorrow moving out of mental Gemini and into emotional Cancer. And that for the next few weeks sets us up for some changes in the way that we think and the way that we speak. So we are needing to balance those two parts of ourselves. There's also a component here of equality and justice for all. So it'll be interesting to see how the week wears on in terms of the things going on, at least in this country, about things that are being revealed about the Mueller investigation. In Europe or in England, there's the whole Brexit thing. Theresa May set to step down on the 7th, which is Friday. It should be interesting to see what happens with all of that. Again, we're trying to bring justice to the world. We're trying to bring balance and harmony. So all of that, it packed into this one new moon, right? And it's not, this isn't a bad thing at all, but these are things that we must consider when we're setting our intentions. What do I want? Well, what do I want to do? But as much as I want to do something, there's something I also want to be, and I must be considerate of that energy as well. Who do I want to be? What do I want to do? And be ready to adapt and go with the flow. Any questions about that for you? Anybody? Oh, more comments. Oh no, I just flowed backwards with the comments. That's all. Okay, so that's it for our new moon. Let's see what else I have to share with you this morning. Good morning, Sharon. Good to see you. And welcome to the Meta Cafe. We love to have new people join us. Sometimes I think they're new people, but they're probably people that hear the show at other times of the day. But it's nice to see them when they check in with us as well. So let's talk a little bit more then about the rest of the week. So this is by normal standards, or the norm that we've come to expect. This is a fairly quiet week. It doesn't mean it won't have some ups and downs to it or some changes going on, but I think they're changes that we can flow with. And the next change comes tomorrow when Mercury, as I said earlier, moves out of Gemini and into the sign of Cancer. So now we're going to be challenged to be objective as we're thinking emotionally, right? When Mercury's in Gemini, it's fact-oriented. It is the mental processes are working. Ideas and thinking is on overdrive, as Mercury is the planet that rules the sign of Gemini. But now it moves into Cancer and things get a little bit more emotional, right? Cancer is protective and nurturing, and it is the emotion. That means there's moods that we have to deal with. So our thinking and our speaking will be a direct reflection of the moods that we're feeling. And sometimes the moods are high, sometimes they're not, right? Sometimes they're equal. We're feeling good, but we're not feeling like, exuberant. And other times we're feeling low. So we have to work with the emotional energy over the next several weeks. So our information that we're receiving, the input, is coming through and linked to our intuition and our instinct. Cancer is instinctual and intuitive energy. So we can't just say, get me the facts. We have to also flow with our intuition or our gut. What is our body's wisdom informing us of, not just the mind? When Mercury is in Cancer, we also feel more interested in what is affecting us personally, or affecting our families or our friends or our coworkers, the people that are fairly close to us, as opposed to the wider conversations going on in the world. It doesn't mean that we don't hear about what's going on. It just means that we want to know what's in it for us, right? How does that affect us? How am I needing to be emotionally prepared for what is going on in the outer world? And so in a way, in a sense, instead of the mind being expansive as it was while Mercury was in Gemini, it becomes more, not closed, but more personalized, right? Just more personalized. So that, again, isn't a bad thing. It's just different from the way things were when Mercury was flowing through Gemini. Now, while Mercury is in Cancer for the next 3 weeks, we've got to be aware of a couple of things. For one thing, Mercury will conjunct Mars. I want to say it's on the 18th of June. And that is something for us to watch for. In fact, I feel like we're going to be noticing that a couple of days ahead of time. And so think about that whole, the 3rd week of June from Father's Day on. I want you to be very aware of what it is that you're saying and the emotion behind what it is you're saying, because Mars is a planet that sometimes loses patience. It's a warrior planet, and it takes action. It acts first, thinks later, right? So it's a possibility we may emotionally knee-jerk to something, to someone, to something that we perceive happening in our outer world. And if that's the case, then we know from experience in talking here on the morning show that you lose your opportunity to respond to what is showing up in your world, and instead end up in reaction. So you're going to want to circle that 3rd week of the month, because that's going to be the month. That's going to be the one in the month where we have Mercury and Mars in a conjunction. But that, of course, isn't the end of it. It is also going to be the case that then Mercury opposes. Remember, Cancer and Capricorn are opposing one another. In Cancer right now, we have Mars, and tomorrow we'll have Mercury. On the other side, we have the South Node, and we have Saturn, and we have Pluto. So while we end up with a Mars conjunct Mercury, we are also going to have Mercury opposing those planets. And I would expect that there could be some interesting things develop in the outer world. I would bet in this particular case, remember those three planets, the South Node, Saturn, and Pluto, are kind of intimately involved with the reconstruction, the deconstruction and reconstruction of our institutions, of our belief systems, of anything that you want to think of, our corporations, the government, all institutions, education, health, agriculture, blah, 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 right? So we have this complete redo that's going on. Sometimes it's like an earthquake, right? Where you have the motion and then it shakes things up. And then for a while, there's nothing. And then something else happens, maybe another earthquake or a volcanic eruption. Something happens, shakes up the world or shakes up the institutions. And then again, it settles down. Well, toward the end of June, or that third week and into the fourth week, we are going to end up with the planet Mercury opposing South Node, Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn, adding more to the destruction, rebirthing energies. So, I mean, this isn't destruction with no purpose in mind, right? We're being shoved through the eye of a needle, in that we have created unsustainable forms and unsustainable structures, and now we're in the process of letting go what we need to in order to rebuild something that will stand the test of time, and time in bigger cycles of time. It's like when a great picture of what this means is if you look at your bridges and your roads, and after a hard winter, what are your roads? They're filled with potholes and cracks, and that's infrastructure. And what happens is then the road transportation department comes out, fills in the potholes if you're lucky. If you're in California, I don't think they ever fix them, the cracks, and then you're ready for another season. So infrastructure also a part of what is crumbling and in the process of being rebuilt. So we might see some movement along that in terms of transportation, in terms of the way that we're interpreting laws, in terms of the government setup. In particular, I'm interested to see what happens with Brexit, and in this country, of course, the continuing squabbles going on in Congress. So that should be keyed up later on this month. Now, on Saturday, the 8th, Saturday the 8th, Venus, who has been in her home sign of Taurus, moves out of that and into Gemini. And so when I think of Venus and Gemini, I think of Chatty Cathy, right? That doll that would just chatter, or, the kind of person that we think of that chats a lot, talks a lot, has a lot to say. So Venus in Gemini puts on her Chatty Cathy garb. She's very sociable, communicative. She's talking to everybody. There's a potential of bonding with people here on just the mental level. So relationships started during Venus and Gemini are often mentally driven, right? They're attracted to one another because of thought processes. And she's a bit fickle in Gemini. She's not commitment oriented. You would have to have if you start a relationship during this period of time, there would have to be other things in a chart that draw you together, that have more stability, because this is a little bit of fickle energy. And this is about the smorgasbord, the buffet. Venus in Gemini is like dabbling in lots of different things, different arts, different music, different clothing, different beauty products, different, you name it, right? The position that Venus takes in Gemini is, I want it all, and I might not want any of it, and I might want something different tomorrow. I'm back. I blinked out for a moment. I'm so sorry. Does having your moon and rising sign in Cancer make a big difference? It means that your viewpoint, your personality will be triggered, and it also means that your moon is triggered. So typically, the moon and your rising in Cancer would give you a very soft, nurturing edge, and would, you would view the world with kindness and with more um and sometimes you might even want to protect yourself from that outer world. But now with Mercury and Mars getting into the mix there, you may find that you have upset with people in your lives, maybe your family. You may be pulled between family and duty and responsibility to your work or career. So for you, Allison, this might be a time where there are some issues that get popped up, some moods that are swinging, other people projecting out upon you. Just take it all within stride, because this too shall pass, right? This will pass. But I would be very mindful. I don't know what degree of Cancer your moon is, or your rising. If you know, you can pop that in here into the chat, because the moon Mars and Mercury are going to conjunct. What degree will that be? That's going to be probably in about the middle degrees of the sign. So 14, 15, 16 degrees. The middle degrees, middle to late degrees of the sign are the ones where you will have the most influence. Now, we're all going to be affected by that, by the way, not just Cancer, not just Gemini, not just Aries, right? All of you will be affected because it's somewhere in your chart. If you have planets or points that are in those middle to late degrees of the sign, you're going to be affected by that. So only by really taking a look at your personal chart will you know where this is going to happen, what it might likely trigger for you, and how that will unfold. So if you're interested in that, rising 1 degree, moon 16. So your moon will likely be triggered. So your emotions, you might be more moody, more sensitive, more intuitive. I would watch for dreams. If you're someone who has dreams, that your dreams may hold some keys to your emotional health, and to the things that you need to do next, right? Your next steps. Debbie Tibbetts pulled a card from Wota, Wisdom of the Oracle, Woto. She picked Breathe, 29. And in protection, which just means pay closer attention to the message. You have worked long and hard. Your dreams are coming to fruition. Slow and steady wins the race. You will indeed win if you relax, stay the course, trust your intuition, and breathe. Thanks, Debbie. Thank you. Thank you. That's actually a really good card. I can imagine. It's that blue card that just is so peaceful looking, right? Really pretty blue. So breathe. Slow and steady wins the race. All right. I think I've covered everything on this page. Let's take a look now at the human design for the week. I named the blog post on Saturday, whenever I did the blog post, Wormholes and Miracles. And that's because the gates that human design are in, the sun and the earth anyway, this week create the potential for miracles via wormholes. Wormholes are just those things that connect us from that fold space in a way. Like if it's a million miles from here to the sun, it's actually more like 93 million to the sun, then a wormhole sort of connects the space and makes it easier and faster to get to where you want to go, right? But a wormhole to lead to a miracle is all about timing, being in the right place at the right time. And of course, the human design this week, that's exactly where the sun and the earth have us. So I'm going to show you the human design chart for the week, for today anyway. And as you can see, we only have one channel defined, and it's the channel from the gate 12 down to the gate 22 in the emotional center. So this is the emotional solar plexus, and this is the throat center. So we have a motor connected to the throat. This is a week where we might feel like emotional manifestors, where we get an idea and we want to take immediate action on it if it feels good. And unfortunately, that's only correct for some of you out there. The rest of us who have suddenly gotten this connected up are needing to make sure we follow our type and our strategy. And our type and strategy may indeed be emotional, which means you wait for clarity before you take action. But this is a channel of passion. And remember, earlier in chatting this morning, I was talking about this new moon being very important to us to be clear about what it is we want to do and what it is we want to be. And we see that mirrored in human design this week with the channel of passion being defined. We have Mercury up at gate 12, followed by the sun later in the month. So this is a channel that's going to be open and close, open and defined a couple of different times this month. And the gate 22, which is emotionally connecting via mood with charm and grace or not. So the best way to stay in alignment with the mood is to follow your passion. When you're working your passion, you know how it is. Time flies. You don't even notice that there have been ups and downs throughout the day because you're just following what your heart and your desires are. The sun at gate 35, in its highest expression through the gene keys, is boundlessness. I love that word. In the gift, it is adventure, and in the city, it's hunger. And it's funny because as we started this morning, I'm like, my stomach starts growling, and I'm like, I'm never hungry at that time of the morning. It was really weird because I usually eat after the show is over, not before. And somehow I was hungry, and I went, I wonder, is that a symptom of a greater shadow within all of us of hunger? What are you hungry for? Right? What do you want to fill the void with? And if we can get to what it is that we're hungry for and elevate that from that hunger to the adventure, right? To being able to move through and do things in accordance with what feels good to us. That's the energy that we have here this week. It's part of the stream of fulfillment, which is another way in human design, we call them circuits. In the gene keys, we call them streams. It's the stream of fulfillment. Where do we find fulfillment? What fulfills us? What makes us full, right? What is it that, fills us up and allows us then to express our passion? So also, this is a gate of timing because the gate or the earth is at gate 5, which is in the shadow, impatience. In the gift, it's patience. And in the highest expression, it's timelessness, letting go of time. But timing is in the mix here, in that it's more about not time like what does your watch say, or what time do you have to be somewhere. It's about being in the right place at the right time, being patient for all the pieces on the chessboard to become ready for you to take action on, or for you to become something. And timing in this case is divine timing. This isn't about my human mind saying, I want it now, bring it to me now. And if you don't bring it to me now, then I'm going to force it to happen now because I want it now. This is about waiting for the right time, waiting for the universe or God or source or goddess, whatever you want to call it, universal timing, bringing everything together in divine right timing and being patient for that to develop for you. Sometimes when we are impatient, then our hunger causes us to fill the void with all kinds of stuff, right? And with this kind of new moon in Gemini, the possibility is you might be filling it with things that don't really have any meaning to you. So being careful to fill the void, if you want to call it that, with what is important and in right timing. Okay. Hope everybody's okay with that. Gail, good morning. Joining late. I'll have to go back and hear what I missed. Lots to learn. Definitely, we were talking about this very busy but good week, right? It's a busy, this is a busy week when you have planets that change signs. It, opens gateways and doorways for us. And yet there aren't really very many planetary challenges going on for us, as, the moon is making, challenges all through the week, but there aren't any other big challenges with the other planets to cause us real chaos. But the sign changes with Mercury and with Venus later in the week can create opportunities. I think it's like doorways that open up, and we can choose to move through those doorways. Irina, I have gates 5 and 35 in my personality, Sun and Earth. Nope, you won't feel this transit any stronger because it is always there for you, right? Irina, you're always resonating with rhythm and timing, and always on. I also think of the gate 35 as having lots of tools on your tool belt, lots of gifts that you can share with people, sort of the Jill of all trades, right? So you have lots of things that you've amassed on this life journey that you can share with the world. And so for you, nothing really different this week. This is either your birthday week or it is some iteration of that through the year. Asa says, I've been so filled with everyone else's stuff. I have no idea anymore what I love, my passion, what makes me hungry. And Asa, that is sort of a Libran thing to do. And I know you are a Libra. If you're not a Libra, I would be really surprised. No, I'm pretty sure you're a Libra. And, that is one of the Achilles heels, I think, of Libra. It's a beautiful thing, right? To be able to help others, to be able to help fulfill others' needs. But sometimes then that gets you out of balance. Remember the scales. They need to tip sort of within a sort of harmony, not like this or this, right? But more like this, right? Just equal sort of balance, an equality, but it's always in motion, where you're spending equal time on what you want and equal time on helping other people fill their needs. So for you, this new moon then opens up the opportunity for you to bring those things into balance. And, it can start with you just considering, what do I really love? What have you let go of that you used to really love to do, or who you really love to be, and instead filled with other people's things, other people's stuff. Okay. Irina says, thank you. That resonates a lot. I'm December born, so my sun is in opposition to the current sun as of today. So your sun is at gate 5 and your earth is at gate 35, I'm guessing, right? So it's the opposing gate, but you're still feeling that energy. It's just the planets are in reverse mode. So there you have it, guys. We have a good week. We have lots going on, but nothing really, earth shaking until later on in the month. And Asa says, yes, I am. And your words are also so resonating. Got to get back to the basics. And the basics begin with putting on your own oxygen mask first. And then from the support that you have for you, how can I then, out of my fullness, gift others with my time, with my energy, with my gifts and my talents, right? If you're not full first, you're coming from a deficit, or you're tipping the scales like this instead of bringing them into that smaller. We want a smaller frequency or a waveform, right? Even with emotional energy, right? The best that we could do with emotional energy, because it's moody, is to make the wave smaller, right? To keep, find our neutral baseline and keep the up and the down sort of smaller rather than jagged or high. And, and there are going to be times that a lot of that is out of our control, based on what's happening around us or in the world, or where we are in our evolution as an individual. But if our work could please, be even, right? Just a more even keel. And then your life takes on more meaning. You get fulfilled while others get fulfilled as well. Hi, Rebecca. Can you please pick a card for the week? I can do that. Debbie did pick a card for us. And the card was breathing, or breath, or breathe. And if you scroll back a little bit, you'll find that. But I'll tell you what, I'll pull a card for the new moon. So it's more of an energy that we can look at overall for the new moon. Okay. And we'll wait for that. For a moment, I thought I also got the breathe card, Debbie. I almost freaked out, but it's the card round and round. Card 25, which is a 7. And it kind of looks kind of like a nice card, right? Round and round. Reminds me of spirals, right? In the calendar that we're using now, the Pleiadian-Earth energy calendar, it's about spirals of time. So for this new moon, spirals of time, of round and round. The essential meaning, the spiral quality of events when a lesson isn't quite integrated. Cycles you are challenged to break, revisiting a pattern from a new perspective. So the Oracle's message says the appearance of this card is a reminder that although it may appear that you've gone backward, the truth is that you're standing at a higher level, looking down into your circumstances. You will learn something, do something better, and break a cycle set up in the past. You actually have a bird's eye view of your initial footprints and can access the wisdom and the lessons learned. I think that's a really good card for the new moon, right? So being open to seeing that. Let's pull an animal card for the week too. Let me see. Any animal things happened to me this weekend? No, I don't think so. You guys, I totally had forgotten to tell you last week about my zoo trip and the peacock. I did post it back on the page later in the day, or right after the morning show ended, because I was like this close to touching a peacock. And I had two things in my mind. I'm going to scare him if I touch him. And if I touch an animal like this with a bunch of kids around me, that's not a very good role model for them. So I resisted touching. I could just see that poor bird, right? As soon as I touched him and everybody else around me who were all 8-year-olds, thinking it would be okay for them to do that. And I was very aware that that wouldn't be a good thing. So 2 cards flew out and they were like this. One is wasp spirit and the other one was skunk spirit upside down. And I don't even know what to think about that, because as soon as I look at them, I'm like, I don't want those cards. But let's be open-minded and see what lessons we have to learn from skunk spirit, which was in protection mode, which is 54, which is a 9. Letting go of something, perhaps, huh? By the way, underneath it, it says skunk spirit, know your worth, in protection, because this one was upside down. But look at, they managed to make a skunk look appealing. Beautiful, even. Okay, so in protection, it says, not everyone will appreciate you. Many people have issues of their own to address, and you may trigger something in them, but if so, no matter. Skunk spirit calls you to be fully yourself without apology. Now is the time for honesty and admitting that something does not sit right for you. You deserve the self-respect that comes when you courageously choose to stand up for yourself and speak your truth in love. Remember who you are and what really matters to you, and act with integrity. You will be so glad you did. And wasp spirit 64, which is a 10, which is a 1, says sometimes life stings. Vanita, a stinger and a stinker. You're so witty. All right, wasp spirit says, not all that spirit creates in nature is easy to love, but when we look through the eyes of wasp spirit, we recognize that even though sometimes life stings, there is a purpose for pain, just as there is a purpose for wasps in the natural world. Wasps keep insect populations down, supporting the growth of plants. So too, the sting of life may hurt, and you may feel deeply disappointed or even resentful that wasp spirit, say that 10 times fast, has shown up. But you will soon come to see that spirit has something wonderful in store for you. You may well come to realize that being stung led to something far better than you had envisioned for yourself. Perhaps behind the scene, wasp spirit was conspiring. Let me say that again. You may well come to realize that being stung led to something far better than you had envisioned for yourself. Perhaps behind the scenes, wasp spirit was conspiring with spirit to ensure that you could grow something of value to you. Spirit has a plan, and wasp spirit plays a part. Have you ever looked back and been glad your prayers weren't answered because the path you took led to something far better? Wasp spirit is a reminder to reflect on those times, for today's sting may hurt, but something better awaits you. Interesting couple of cards there, right? So, questions, anybody? Both animals call for respect, indeed, right? And restraint, right? We don't just, well, restraint. You see a skunk, run the other direction. Don't restrain. Anyway, all right, guys, that's it for me today. We had quite a lot. Just a quick reminder that I will hopefully be sending things out today that have information on how to join the summit, the Change Your Mind, Change Your Life Summit, coming up June 11th through the 16th. So just a couple of weeks from now. My part to play is change your mind by releasing your dependence on your mind, and that will be on the 13th at 1 p.m. That's 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. East Coast time. And we will be talking about human design and our dependence on the mind. So I will post that up today. You can sign up for that. There are people offering different free gifts. There is a grand prize drawing for people who are participating, and it is absolutely free, right? You get to join in for free. So, why not, right? You get to listen to 11 brilliant women share their gifts, and you get to hear it all at no charge to you. So I'm going to post that up after we get off this morning. I'll put that up on the page, Living Astrology's Facebook page, and you can sign up for that summit. And that's it for me. Have a great week, everybody. I'm not sure if I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning or Wednesday morning. One of those 2 mornings, if I'm not here, you'll know I'm at the doctor. I have to get my final check on my ear and on my surgery on my neck, and then I'm released from the doctor. So I will probably not know that until a little bit later to let you know. So anyway, take care, have a great day, and see you later.